It's a beautiful early spring day, way warmer than normal. Actually beat some records. So today, because of that, we need to get started on making our window coverings at our cabin because it's about to be bear wake-up season earlier than we expected, and the quality of the snow might not be good in the next 2 weeks, which is the earliest we can get out there due to my husband being on call status for work. So with that said, hopefully the snow will be good enough so we can get out there and get these installed to save us some time. We're going to try to get the majority of the window coverings prepped today by measuring and cutting. You can see my cute little diagram here. All right, so they're going to be over the window like that, braces at the top, and cross boards, which we'll finish out at the cabin so we can use our top saw out there. Also, I used Pythagorean theorem today to figure out what the length I was for that, and I was pretty proud of myself because I don't know that I've really done that since high school. Also taught my 7-year-old exactly what that is because he's very into math. So we're gonna get started, but before I do that, I just wanted to show you something pretty unique. So when we got here loaded up with wood, my truck was parked here with the parking brake on. And then it slid right after we got out, walked to the top, all the way down there. And my youngest son was still in there, and he thought that that was the coolest ride of his life ever. So turns out you don't really need to spend money on kids at all. Just leave them unattended in the vehicle for a few minutes while they're unbuckling to get themselves out because they can take a free ride down the driveway. So that's pretty cool, but we're going to go ahead and get started on this beautiful afternoon. So for starters, I'm going to be measuring to do the vertical boards that are going to cover the window. So they're going to be exactly about the same exact size as the window. So that means we're going to have 40 inches long. So I'm just going to start by marking everything before we make the cuts. So I decided while these were already up on the sawhorses, it made more sense to measure and mark the ones that were there, make the cut, and then continue to swap them out and move forward. So I haven't used this exact saw yet because our other one out of the cabin has a nice little laser. So hopefully I can make it on this line. Definitely not a professional by any means, but I do need to give myself more credit than I really do because I'm kind of owning this project on my own right now. Just check it out as we get all of this to come together. I do all the measuring and the cutting while my husband's working on other stuff around the house. To avoid making another cut, because this 10-foot board is actually a little longer than 10 feet, so I'll just find all the ones in the end that are the same excess and make that one board instead of making another cut, because it's like, I don't know, less than, it's maybe like a ½ inch too long, but that's okay. Work smarter, not harder. So like I described there, each of these boards I'm able to make 2 measurements, 2 cuts, so we get 3 boards total out of all of these so that these can be the coverings for our windows to protect from bears trying to break in, because our cabin is stocked with a lot of food that is ready to go in case you get stranded there. Meanwhile, while I've been doing this, my husband's been doing some vehicle maintenance on the 4Runner to prepare for the summer. The next ones are the crisscross pieces, which is 54.8, but we're not going to finish cutting them until we're out there. So what I think we'll do is we'll do around like 60 to just split them in half for easier transport. That way we can figure out our little angles and cut off excess then. Okay. Do you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. And together, that's just what we did. We made it in no time at all getting these last boards cut together. After everything was cut, we started to separate them based on size. So the little bit longer ones we set to the side so that those could make up one covering for a window later. We wanted to equally space them out. So I reduced, reused, recycled, and used a spare piece of wood back there on something we were going to bring to the transfer site so we could make a little jig so that they're going to be equally spaced before we attach those side boards right there that are holding it in place in anticipation of later adding that cross board to hold it entirely together. Overall, that jig worked out really well and everything ended up nice and uniform. Work smarter, not harder. One done. So then we'll do cross supports on each side, but we won't make those cuts till we get out there. But this will go over top of our windows that we have in so far to prevent the bears from getting in through the windows, because that is a real threat up there. Currently, we have 3 windows installed on the lower level of our cabin, so we're making 3 of these today. So we're just following exactly the same idea as far as using the jig for the spacing and attaching the boards that go across and getting these all together. They are pretty heavy duty. They're probably about 50 to 60 pounds each. Going to be pretty hefty. Hopefully this will help deter any bears from trying to get into our cabin and get all of our tasty food that we keep out there in case of emergency. So putting these down first was a much smarter idea. You know, sometimes after you do it once, you think things through a little bit more and you're like, this would make a difference as far as making them attach better on the uneven floor and holding it steady so that we could get a good space.
You just put it on there.
Oh.
There you go.
Without breaking it.
$57. Yeah, it won't be 100 with the other boards.
Okay. Alright, so this is 57 pounds. The hinges that we got are each rated for 50 pounds. So we're just making sure we didn't need to buy a third hinge before we get all the way out there. I mean, I know it's pretty heavy. Didn't think it'd be that close, but we do have 2 more boards to add, so. And then after installing, we trim off the little bit of excess of the wood for the cross boards and another one's done. Like everything in life, once you start to do it more than once, you kind of get the hang of it, and laying the boards down first for the cross boards and then screwing into them worked out so much better. So learn from us, do it that way to begin with. You can see how we use the jig there to get our spacing, and we attach them, and then we cut off that excess overhang that you see right there so that it lines up nice and perfect. So we got the last one completed because if you recall, we only have 3 windows up right now. So that's all that we need to cover in anticipation of the bears waking up. So we will be hauling these out in the next few weeks and finishing with the cross pieces and hanging them up.